The sanctuary system had never seen so many ships. 5,000 council vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge, their combined mass enough to cast shadows across entire planets. At the center of the formation, the Eternal glowed with Supreme Archon Velos's power, a beacon of destruction ready to unleash itself upon humanity. "Contact the human fleet," Velos commanded. One final chance to surrender. Admiral Hyan Kim sat on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, surrounded by 300 human warships. It looked hopelessly outnumbered. That was exactly what he wanted the Council to think. Receiving communication from the Council flagship, his communication officer reported. "Put it through." Velos's glowing form appeared on the main view screen. "Admiral Kim, I am Supreme Archon Velos. I command the greatest military force this galaxy has ever seen. Your position is hopeless. Surrender now and your people will be spared. Resist and we will destroy every human world, every human ship, and every human life. You have 1 minute to decide." Hyan looked at the glowing being on his screen, at the arrogance and certainty in his voice. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people depending on him. He thought about the children who would grow up free or not at all. He thought about everything humanity had built in 2 centuries among the stars. "Come and take it," Hyan said, and cut the communication. On the Eternal's bridge, Velos's form pulsed with anger. "So be it, all ships advance. Destroy them." The Council Armada moved forward like a wave of metal and fire. Their shields glowed bright enough to light up the darkness of space. Their weapons charged, ready to unleash enough destructive power to crack a moon. "Hold position," Hyan ordered calmly. "Wait for it." The Council fleet entered the Sanctuary System's asteroid field, moving in perfect formation toward the human defensive line. They were still an hour away from weapons range. They didn't see the hundreds of small objects drifting among the asteroids. They didn't notice the faint energy signatures hidden in the gravitic anomalies. They didn't realize they were already in the trap. "Now," Hyan said, throughout the system 200 automated defense platforms activated. Their artificial intelligence systems calculated firing solutions in microseconds. Their kinetic launchers swiveled toward targets. And then they fired. The first wave of Council ships didn't know what hit them. Solid metal projectiles moving at incredible speed slammed into hulls, puncturing shields and armor like paper. Ships exploded. Ships broke apart. Ships died before their crews even realized they were under attack. "Evasive action," Velos roared. "Return fire." But there was nothing to return fire at. The platforms were small, heavily armored, and spread throughout the system. The Council fleet's weapons were designed to fight other ships, not small automated platforms. Their massive energy cannons were too slow, too imprecise. They wasted precious seconds firing at targets that were already gone. The second wave hit harder. Electromagnetic pulse weapons shut down entire sections of the Council formation. Ships drifted helplessly as their systems rebooted. Other ships collided with them, creating chaos in the tightly packed fleet. "They're hurting us," Velos realized. "They're forcing us into kill zones." "All ships break formation!" Scatter and attack independently. But breaking formation only made things worse. The defense platforms had been programmed for exactly this response. As Council ships scattered, they became isolated targets, picked off one by coordinated fire from multiple platforms. "Human fleet advancing," Tactical reported. Hyan watched as his 300 ships moved forward, their weapons blazing. They didn't charge blindly. They moved in coordinated groups, each one supporting the others, covering blind spots and focusing fire on isolated targets. The Defiant and her sister ships phased in and out of stealth, appearing long enough to fire devastating salvos before vanishing again. Captain Minho Choi felt the familiar rush of combat as his ship dove through the Council formation. "Target the ships trying to reorganize. Don't let them coordinate." Commander Unisong worked her controls with practiced efficiency. Multiple targets locked, firing. The Defiant's weapons sang and 3 Council ships went dark, their engines and weapons offline. Marine assault pods launched from the Defiant's hull, heading for the disabled ships. Lieutenant Doyen Han led the boarding parties, his team securing enemy vessels and turning their weapons against their own fleet. On the Sanctuary 3 colony, Colonel Jiwan Kang watched as Council troop transports descended toward the planet's surface. "They're trying to establish a ground presence. All units prepare for engagement." The transports landed in a wide valley surrounded by mountains. Thousands of council soldiers poured out, expecting minimal resistance. They found instead a prepared and waiting human force. Fire, G1 ordered. Artillery hidden in the mountains opened up. Kinetic strikes from orbit targeted the landing zone. Human soldiers in powered armor emerged from defensive positions, their weapons cutting down enemy troops with brutal efficiency. The council forces had superior numbers. But the humans had superior tactics, superior weapons, and the advantage of fighting on ground they had prepared for months. The battle for Sanctuary 3 raged for 3 days. Council soldiers kept landing, kept attacking, kept dying, but they couldn't break through the human defensive lines. Every meter they gained cost them dozens of lives. Every position they captured was immediately counterattacked and retaken. In space, the battle had become a nightmare for the Council fleet. The defense platforms continued their relentless assault. Human ships darted through the chaos, striking and vanishing, and then Dr. Suman Lee's virus deployed. It spread through the Council fleet's communication network like wildfire, infecting every ship it touched. Suddenly, weapons turned on their own allies. Navigation systems reported false positions. Life support failed on random ships. The Council fleet began tearing itself apart from within. "We need to retreat," Velos's tactical officer urged. "We've lost over half the fleet. We outnumber them 10 to 1. Velos roared. "We can't lose." "We're losing," the officer said flatly. "If we don't retreat now, we won't have a fleet left to retreat with." On the Indomitable, Hyon watched the displays showing the Council fleet's disintegration. "They're breaking. Press the attack. Don't give them time to recover." But Velos wasn't done yet. The Supreme Archon left his flagship, his energy form streaking through space toward the Indomitable. He was done relying on ships and weapons. He would destroy the human commander himself. He smashed through the Indomitable's hull, his energy tearing through armor and shields. He entered the bridge in a blaze of light, his form pulsing with deadly power. "You dare challenge the Council? I will show you the price of your arrogance." Hyon looked at the glowing being who had just destroyed half his bridge. "You already showed us. That's why we're here." Velos raised his hand to unleash a blast of pure energy that would vaporize everyone on the bridge. But before he could fire, the lights went out. Emergency systems activated, bathing the bridge in red light, and standing behind Velos, holding a device that pulsed with electromagnetic energy, was Dr. Suman Lee. "You're not the only one who can manipulate energy," she said, and activated the device. Velos screamed as the electromagnetic pulse disrupted his energy form. He flickered, struggled to maintain cohesion, and finally collapsed into a containment field that Suman had prepared for exactly this moment. "Target neutralized," Suman reported calmly. Throughout the Council fleet, word spread that Supreme Archon Velos had been captured, the most powerful being in the Council military, contained by humans. It was the final blow to their morale. Ships began surrendering en masse. Others fled into faster-than-light travel, abandoning the battle. "Cease fire," Hyon ordered. "Accept all surrenders." The Battle of Sanctuary System ended 72 hours after it began. Of 5,000 Council ships, less than 500 survived. Humanity had lost 40 ships and taken heavy casualties on Sanctuary 3, but they had held. They had won. Across the galaxy, every species watched the broadcasts. They saw the mighty Council fleet broken and defeated. They saw Supreme Archon Velos in chains aboard a human ship. They saw that the impossible had happened. Within days, rebellions erupted on a dozen Council worlds. Species that had been suppressed for centuries rose up, inspired by humanity's example. The Council's grip on the galaxy began to crack. Ambassador Ji-Hoon Park stood before the reformed Galactic Council 6 months later. It was a very different council now. Half the old delegates were gone, replaced by representatives from species that had liberated themselves. Humanity and their allies held significant positions. "The old council ruled through fear and force," Ji-Hoon said to the assembled delegates. "The new council must rule through cooperation and respect. We didn't fight this war to become the next tyrants. We fought it so that every species could choose its own path." Councillor Vren, stripped of his chairman position but still present as a delegate, spoke up. "And what of those of us who opposed you? What punishment awaits us?" "None," Ji-Hoon answered. "Unless you break the new laws. We're not interested in revenge. We're interested in building something better, a galaxy where different species work together instead of one species dominating all the others." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in 10,000 years of history. Delegates shouted at each other across the crystalline chamber. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others urged caution. A few, seeing the writing on the wall, quietly began planning their own survival. Counselor Vren stood at the central platform, his insectoid body trembling with rage. "Silence. All of you." The chamber slowly quieted, though angry murmurs continued to ripple through the assembled representatives. "The humans have made their choice," Vren declared. "They have destroyed our peacekeeping fleet. They have taken Fleet Admiral Croth prisoner. They have humiliated the Council before the entire galaxy. This cannot stand." High Commander Thalos spread his wings. "I warned you they would resist. But even I did not expect them to be so effective. Their technology is more advanced than we believed. Their tactics are unlike anything we have faced before." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing the battle at the border colonies. Council delegates watched in horrified fascination as human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before anyone could respond. They watched as kinetic weapons tore through shields that had protected Council ships for millennia. They watched as electromagnetic pulses disabled entire squadrons in seconds. "How is this possible?" Delegate Myra asked, her voice bubbling through her water sphere. "We have studied human technology. They should not have these capabilities." "They hid them," a new voice said. Supreme Archon Velos entered the chamber, his energy-based form glowing with barely contained power. He was the leader of the Luminari, the most powerful military force in the Council. His people were beings of pure energy, capable of manipulating matter and destroying worlds. When he spoke, everyone listened. "The humans have been preparing for this war for decades," Velos continued. "While we dismissed them as primitives, they were building weapons specifically designed to counter our defenses. While we assumed they would accept our rule, they were training soldiers to fight us. We underestimated them. That was our mistake. What do you recommend?" Vren asked. "Total war," Velos answered simply. "We gather the full might of the Council, 5,000 ships from every member species. We mobilize ground forces from 100 worlds. We show humanity that there is no victory against the united power of the galaxy." 5,000 ships, Thalos repeated. "You truly believe that's necessary?" "I believe anything less would be another mistake," Velos said. "The humans defeated 200 ships with 40. What will they do when we send 5,000? "They'll do the same thing," a small voice said from the back of the chamber. Every head turned to see who had spoken. It was Ambassador Kenji, representing one of the minor species that had walked out with the humans during the first session. He had returned alone without his human allies. "You dare speak here?" Vren demanded. "Someone has to tell you the truth," Kenji replied, his small frame standing straight despite the hostile gazes around him. "The humans won't surrender. Not now, not ever. You can send 5,000 ships. You can send 50,000. They'll find a way to fight. That's what they do. They never give up. Then they'll die," Velos said coldly. "Maybe," Kenji acknowledged, "but how many of you will die with them? And what happens to the Council's authority when other species see that humans can fight you to a standstill? How many rebellions will erupt across the galaxy when everyone realizes the Council can be defeated?" His words hung in the air. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. He was right, and they knew it. The Council's power had always been based on the assumption that resistance was impossible. That assumption was now shattered. "Then what do you suggest?" Vren asked with barely concealed contempt. "That we negotiate with terrorists?" "I suggest you consider that maybe, just maybe, the humans are right," Kenji said. "Maybe your 10,000-year rule has made you forget what you were supposed to be. You were supposed to guide younger species, not enslave them. You were supposed to bring peace, not enforce tyranny. The humans aren't fighting because they're evil. They're fighting because you gave them no choice." "Enough," Velos said, his form brightening with anger. "We did not come here for philosophy lessons. We came to plan the destruction of a rebellious species." "Then plan away," Kenji said. "But don't say you weren't warned." He turned and walked out of the chamber, knowing he would probably be arrested before he reached his ship. But the truth needed to be said. After he left, Velos addressed the Council. "I will personally lead the Grand Armada. We will crush humanity's military, occupy their worlds, and ensure this never happens again. Any species that supports the humans will face the same fate." "What about their hidden shipyards?" Thalos asked. "Our intelligence suggests they've been building ships at a rate far beyond what we expected." "We destroy the shipyards first," Velos said. Then we destroy their colonies. Then we destroy Earth itself if necessary. This ends with humanity's complete and total submission. The council voted. The measure passed with only a handful of dissenting voices. Within hours, orders went out across council space. Ships began gathering at designated rally points. Soldiers reported to their units. The council's war machine, dormant for centuries, rumbled to life. But something else was happening too. In the shadows, in the quiet spaces where the council's eyes didn't reach, younger species were talking. They watched broadcasts that Ambassador Ji-hoon Park transmitted across the galaxy. They heard his words about freedom, about choosing your own destiny, about refusing to bow to tyrants. On Earth, Admiral Hyeon Kim received intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The council was mobilizing 5,000 ships. It was more than he had hoped for, but not unexpected. Can we handle that many? Colonel Ji-won Kang asked. We have to, Hien replied. But we won't fight them ship to ship. We'll use the sanctuary system as our defensive point, narrow the battlefield, force them to come to us on our terms. Engineer Tae-hyun Shin entered the command center, his face showing the exhaustion of someone who hadn't slept in days. Admiral, the defense network is complete. 200 automated platforms positioned throughout the sanctuary system. Each one equipped with kinetic weapons, electromagnetic pulse generators, and the AI targeting system. They can coordinate attacks better than any organic crew. How many ships can they handle? Hyeon asked. In the confined space of sanctuary? We calculate they can destroy or disable 3,000 ships before they're overwhelmed. Combined with our fleet, we should be able to handle the entire Council armada. Should be, Ji-won repeated skeptically. It's the best we can do, Tae-hyun admitted. The Council has numbers on their side. We have innovation and desperation. It'll be enough. It has to be. Dr. Suman Lee joined them at the holographic display. I've distributed the digital virus to all our ships. The moment the Council fleet enters weapons range, we can deploy it. Their communications, their targeting systems, even their life support will be vulnerable. Won't they have defenses against electronic warfare? Ji-won asked. They will now, Suman said, after what we did at the border. But our virus adapts faster than their defenses can update. It's designed to learn and evolve in real time. By the time they figure out how to stop it, the battle will be over. Hyeon studied the tactical display showing the sanctuary system. It was a strategic choke point between human space and Council territory. Any fleet trying to reach Earth would have to pass through it. The system had 2 habitable planets, both heavily fortified and protected by the orbital defense network. Natural asteroid fields and gravitic anomalies limited the approaches, forcing any attacking fleet into predictable paths. It's a trap, Ji-won said, reading his thoughts. The oldest trap in history, Hyeon agreed. But it'll work because they're arrogant. They think their numbers guarantee victory. They'll charge straight in and we'll tear them apart. And if we're wrong, Tae-hyun asked. Then humanity goes extinct, Hyeon said simply. But we won't go quietly. We'll make them remember this war for the next 10,000 years. We'll make sure every species in the galaxy knows that humans don't surrender. Ever. 3 weeks later, Supreme Archon Velos stood at the command center of his flagship, the Eternal. Around him, 5,000 ships stretched into the distance, the largest armada ever assembled in galactic history. They were ready. They were unstoppable, and they were about to teach humanity a lesson in humility. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Course is set for the sanctuary system. The humans have fortified their position there, Velos said. They think they can hold against us. They're wrong. We'll sweep them aside like dust. Engage faster than light travel. Let's end this. The armada disappeared into the void, traveling faster than light toward their destiny. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. Admiral Hyeon Kim stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's United Defense Command Center, deep beneath the surface of the planet. The display showed all 30 human colony worlds, each one connected by thin lines representing supply routes and communication channels. Red indicators blinked at strategic points throughout human space. How long do we have? Asked Colonel Ji-won Kang, her arms crossed as she studied the map. The Council Armada will begin moving in 28 days, Hyeon replied. They're gathering forces from across their territory. Intelligence suggests they'll hit our outer colonies first, expecting quick surrenders. They'll be disappointed, Ji-won said with a slight smile. Captain Min-ho Choi entered the command center. Still wearing his flight suit from the testing mission, Admiral, the Defiance trials are complete. All systems performed beyond specifications. The Council's sensors never detected us, even at close range. Jan nodded. Excellent. How many more ships in the Defiant class can we deploy? 39 are ready now, Minho answered. Another 100 will be operational within 2 weeks. The shipyards have been running at maximum capacity for the past 3 years. A woman in a white laboratory coat approached the group. Dr. Suman Lee carried a data pad that glowed with complex equations and diagrams. Admiral, I have the final specifications for the kinetic kill vehicles. Each one can punch through any energy shield the Council uses. Their technology is 10,000 years old. They stopped innovating because no one challenged them. We've had only 200 years in space, but we've never stopped pushing forward. Hyun turned to face his assembled officers. What's the status of the civilian evacuations? 90% complete, reported a young lieutenant from his station across the room. The remaining populations are moving to hardened shelters on each colony world. Food, water, and medical supplies are stockpiled for 6 months of siege conditions. Good. Hyun pulled up another display, this one showing ship formations and battle plans. The Council expects us to defend our worlds and wait for them to arrive. They think we'll try to hold each colony until they overwhelm us with numbers. They're wrong. Ji-won leaned forward, studying the formations. We're going to hit them first. Exactly, Hyun confirmed. We're not fighting a defensive war. The moment they move their fleets into position, we strike. Hard, fast, and without mercy. We target their supply lines, their communication relays, their staging areas. We make them afraid to sleep at night. Minho smiled. That's why you wanted the Defiant-class ships built. We can slip past their sensors, hit targets deep in Council space, and be gone before they know what happened. The Council has ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 10,000 years, Hyun said. They've forgotten what it means to face an enemy that refuses to be intimidated. They've grown soft, comfortable. Their military exists to suppress rebellions, not fight wars. We're going to remind them what war really means. Dr. Suman activated her data pad, projecting a new hologram into the air. It showed a Council warship, massive and impressive, covered in energy shields and weapon ports. Their standard battleship is 3 kilometers long and carries enough firepower to glass a small planet. Their shields can absorb direct hits from fusion weapons. They're designed to be invincible. She pressed another button and a human warship appeared next to it. It was smaller, sleeker, with fewer visible weapons. Our ships are 1/3 their size. We can't match their shields or their firepower in a straight fight, so we changed the rules. The hologram animated, showing the human ship firing a series of small projectiles at high speed. They passed through the Council ship's shields like they weren't even there and tore through the hull, causing catastrophic damage. Kinetic weapons. Simple physics. Mass times velocity equals a very bad day for anyone on the receiving end. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and explosives. They don't stop solid objects moving at a significant percentage of light speed. They banned kinetic weapons 5,000 years ago, Ji-won said, called them barbaric and inhumane. They banned them because they're effective, Suman corrected. And because when you've dominated the galaxy for millennia, you get to write the rules. Well, we never signed their treaties. We're not bound by their laws. Hyun pulled up another set of displays. Beyond the kinetic weapons, what else do we have? Suman smiled. Electromagnetic pulse weapons that shut down their computer systems. Plasma warheads that burn through their armor. AI-assisted targeting that makes every shot count. And my personal favorite, the virus. Tell me about the virus, Hyun said. The Council uses a standardized communication protocol across all their ships and stations. It's ancient code, unchanged for thousands of years. We've developed a digital weapon that infiltrates their systems through any connection. Once inside, it gives us complete control. We can shut down weapons, engines, life support, anything we want. Minho whistled appreciatively. How long have we been preparing for this? 50 years, Hyun answered. Since the first time the Council threatened us. Every human leader since then has known this day would come. We've built weapons in secret. We've trained soldiers in hidden bases. We've prepared our people for the truth that someday we would have to fight for our freedom. A communication alert sounded throughout the command center. The lieutenant called out, Admiral, we're receiving a message from the Council. They're sending spy drones into our territory to monitor our preparations. Let them come, Hyun said calmly, but make sure none of them return. I want the Council blind. No information gets back to them about our true capabilities. Yes, sir. Jiwan pulled up a tactical map showing the border between human and council space. The outer rim colonies are the most vulnerable. The council will expect them to fall quickly. Then we'll make sure they're our strongest defensive position, Yan said. Captain Minho, I want the Defiant and all sister ships deployed to the outer rim within 48 hours. Set up ambush positions along every likely approach vector. When the council fleet arrives, they're going to find a very unpleasant surprise waiting for them. Understood, Admiral. Yan turned to address the entire command center. Listen carefully, all of you. What we're about to do has never been done before. We're going to war with an enemy that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1, an enemy that has never lost a war in 10,000 years. They think we're primitives, barbarians who don't understand the way the galaxy works. They're going to try to crush us quickly to make an example for any other species that might think about resisting. He paused, making eye contact with as many people as possible. But we have something they don't. We have the courage that comes from fighting for something that matters. We have the innovation that comes from never accepting that things have to stay the same. We have the determination that comes from knowing that surrender means the end of everything we are. They fight because the council tells them to. We fight because we choose to be free. The room erupted in applause. Officers stood at their stations, fists raised in solidarity. Get to your posts, Yan ordered. We have 28 days to make sure humanity survives. Let's make them count. As the command center burst into activity, Hyun looked at the holographic display one more time. Somewhere out there, the council was gathering its forces, confident in its inevitable victory. They had no idea that humanity had spent half a century preparing for this moment. They would learn soon enough. The crystalline chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive structure that held the fate of galaxies within its transparent walls. Inside, representatives from 847 different species sat in their designated seats, arranged in a perfect circle around the central speaking platform. The air hummed with tension as translators worked overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something each delegate could understand. Ambassador Ji-hoon Park stood alone on the platform, his simple black suit a stark contrast to the elaborate robes, armor, and biological displays worn by the other delegates. He looked remarkably calm for someone who had just been told his entire species would be enslaved. Counselor Vren rose from his seat, his insectoid body clicking and chittering as he moved. His compound eyes reflected the light from 1,000 different angles as he addressed the chamber. The human delegate will now respond to the council's demand. We have been generous in our terms. Humanity will surrender all military vessels within 30 days. All human colonies will submit to protective custody. Human reproduction will be monitored and controlled. Human technology development will cease immediately. The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, and consciousness field focused on the lone human standing in the center. Ji-hoon took a slow breath. He had known this day would come. The Galactic Council had ruled the known universe for 10,000 years, and they did not tolerate competition. Humanity had made the mistake of expanding too quickly, developing too fast, and refusing to bow down to species that had been traveling the stars since humans were still living in caves. Humanity respectfully declines, Ji-hoon said, his voice steady and clear. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Delegates turned to each other in confusion. Several stood up from their seats. The translator system struggled to keep up with the sudden explosion of commentary. Counselor Vren's mandibles clacked together in what might have been laughter. Perhaps the human does not understand. This is not a negotiation. This is a command. No species has ever refused the Council's demands. Then we will be the first, Ji-hoon replied. High Commander Thalas spread his massive wings, the avian warrior's feathers ruffling with indignation. Your species numbers barely 12 billion across 30 worlds. The Council represents over 4 trillion beings across 50,000 systems. You cannot possibly believe you can stand against us. Ji-hoon turned to face the Thalasian commander directly. We don't believe. We know. This is madness. Delegate Myra's voice bubbled through her water-filled communication sphere. Humanity would doom itself to extinction rather than accept peace? You call it peace, Ji-hoon said, addressing the entire chamber now. We call it slavery. You demand we surrender our weapons, our freedom, our future. You want to control whether our children are born. You want to stop us from learning, growing, reaching for the stars that are our birthright. He paused, letting his words sink in. No, we will never accept these terms. Counselor Vren's voice took on a harder edge. Then you choose war. We choose freedom, Ji-hoon corrected. You are the ones choosing war. You could leave us in peace. You could treat us as equals. Instead, you demand our submission simply because we dare to be strong. Strong? High Commander Thalas let out a harsh, barking laugh. You have 300 ships. The Council commands millions. Your technology is primitive. Your species is young and foolish. You mistake our patience for weakness. Ji-hoon smiled, and there was something in that smile that made several delegates lean back in their seats. No, Commander. You mistake our patience for weakness. For 50 years we have endured your insults. For 50 years we have watched you demand tribute, impose sanctions, restrict our trade, and threaten our people. For 50 years we have been patient. That patience has now ended. You threaten the Council? Friend's voice rose to a screech. I warn you, Ji-hoon said calmly. There is a difference. We do not want this war, but if you force it upon us, you will discover what humanity is truly capable of. We are not like the other species you have conquered. We do not surrender. We do not break. We do not forgive. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other across the vast space. Some called for immediate military action. Others urged restraint. A few, notably the representatives from younger species who had also suffered under the Council's rule, remained silent and thoughtful. Councillor Vren raised his forearm, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the 30 human colony worlds, each one marked with a red targeting symbol. These are your worlds, human. In 30 days, if you have not complied, Council peacekeeping forces will occupy each one. Your people will be placed in protective custody for their own good. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. Ji-hoon studied the display, his expression unreadable. Then he looked up at Vren. In 30 days you will wish you had listened to me today. We gave you every chance to choose peace. We offered friendship, trade, cooperation. You responded with demands and threats. Very well. You will have your war. You are dismissed, Vren said coldly. Use your remaining days wisely. Perhaps your species will survive as a cautionary tale for others who might think to challenge the Council's wisdom. Ji-hoon walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. As he reached the doorway, he stopped and turned back. One more thing, Counselor. When this is over, when your fleets are burning and your authority is broken, remember this moment. Remember that we gave you a choice. Remember that you chose this path. Guards, escort the human from the chamber, Vren ordered. But Ji-hoon was already walking away, his back straight and his head held high. As he passed through the doorway, 3 other delegates quietly stood and followed him. They represented minor species, barely noticed by the Council, but they had heard the humans' words, and they had made their choice too. Behind them, the chamber dissolved into argument and accusation. Some delegates called for immediate attack. Others urged caution. None of them truly believed humanity posed a real threat. They had seen it before dozens of times. Young species, full of pride and defiance, who learned the hard way that the Council's rule was absolute. But as Ji-hoon Park walked through the corridors of the station toward his ship, he allowed himself a small smile. The Council had no idea what was coming. They thought humanity was weak, unprepared, primitive. They would learn the truth soon enough. The war had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The bridge of the Defiant was dark except for the soft glow of control panels and the massive viewport showing the stars ahead. Captain Minho Choi sat in the command chair, watching as his tactical officer, Commander Yuna Song, monitored the approaching Council fleet. 200 ships. Yuna reported, her voice calm and professional. Standard Council formation. They're not even trying to hide. They think this is just a peacekeeping mission. Minho smiled. How long until they reach the border colonies? 6 hours at current speed. And how long until they detect us? They won't, sir. Not until we want them to. The Defiant and 39 other ships of her class drifted in the darkness between stars. Their hulls covered in a special coating that absorbed sensor waves instead of reflecting them. To the Council's scanners, they were just empty space. Around them, hidden in the asteroid fields and behind the moons of dead planets, 40 more human warships waited. It wasn't much compared to 200 Council vessels, but it would be enough. Lieutenant Doyen Han stood at the weapons station, his hands resting on the controls. All kinetic launchers are loaded and ready, sir. Targeting solutions are programmed. We can fire on your command. Minho looked at the display showing the Council fleet. Each ship was 3 times the size of the Defiant. bristling with weapons and protected by shields that could stop anything the Council had faced in the last 1,000 years. But they had never faced humans before. "Send the signal to all ships," Minho ordered. "Attack formation. We stick to the plan. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't give them time to recover." "Signal sent," Yuna confirmed. "All ships acknowledge." "They're moving into position." On the other side of the system, Fleet Admiral Croth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion. The massive vessel was 1.5 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Around him, 199 other ships maintained perfect formation as they approached human space. "Status report," Croth commanded, his reptilian voice hissing through his sharp teeth. "All ships ready," Admiral, his second-in-command, reported. "We should reach the first human colony in 6 hours. Intelligence suggests they have minimal defenses. We expect surrender within the first hour of arrival." Croth nodded. "The Council wants this done quickly. We make an example of the humans, and the other young species will remember their place." "Any sign of human military activity?" "Nothing, sir. Our scouts report only civilian traffic. It appears the humans are evacuating their colonies." "Good. They're smarter than we thought. Perhaps this won't require violence after all." Croth settled into his command chair, confident in the coming victory. He had fought in 12 campaigns against rebellious species. It always ended the same way. The rebels would fire a few shots, lose a few ships, and then surrender when they realized resistance was hopeless. This would be no different. 6 hours later, everything changed. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human colony system. Sensors immediately began scanning for targets. What they found was a single small colony on the third planet, with no visible defenses and no military presence. "This will be easier than expected," Croth said. "All ships advance to orbital position. Prepare to broadcast surrender demands." The fleet moved forward in perfect formation, shields at full power, weapons ready but not yet charged. There was no need for aggression against such a weak target. Then the stars exploded. From every direction, human ships appeared, their weapons already firing. Kinetic projectiles moving at incredible speed slammed into Council vessels. The shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against solid metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles punched through shields and armor like they weren't even there. "We're under attack," someone screamed on Croth's bridge. "Battle stations! Return fire!" Croth roared, but the human ships were already gone, vanishing back into the darkness before the Council fleet could lock weapons. Then they appeared again in different positions, firing another devastating volley. On the defiant, Minho watched as his weapons tore through enemy ships. "Target their engines first. I want them disabled, not destroyed." "Not yet." "Aye, sir," Doyen replied, adjusting his targeting. The kinetic launchers fired again, and 3 Council ships lost propulsion, drifting helplessly in space. The human fleet moved like ghosts, appearing long enough to fire and then vanishing before the enemy could respond. "They're trying to form a defensive perimeter," Yuna reported, pulling their ships together. "Perfect," Minho said. "That's exactly what we want. Execute Phase 2. At his command, 40 human ships that had been hiding in the system's asteroid belt powered up their engines and charged directly at the Council formation. Their weapons blazed, firing not kinetic rounds but electromagnetic pulse weapons that shut down every system they touched. Chaos erupted in the Council fleet. Ships collided as their navigation systems failed, shields flickered and died, communication channels filled with panic and confusion. "All ships concentrate fire on the flagship," Minho ordered. "I want Croth alive." The Defiant and 5 sister ships appeared directly above the Dominion. They fired in perfect coordination, targeting the massive ship's weapon systems, engines, and command sections. Within minutes, the Council flagship was a floating wreck, powerless and defenseless. "Doyen, prep your Marines," Minho said. "We're going in." Lieutenant Doyen Han had been waiting for this order. He led his squad of 20 Marines to the boarding pods, each soldier wearing powered armor and carrying weapons specifically designed to fight inside ships. The pods launched, magnetically attaching to the Dominion's hull. Cutting torches sliced through the armor, and the Marines poured inside. The Council soldiers were not prepared for human close combat tactics. Marines moved through the corridors in coordinated teams, using speed and aggression to overwhelm any resistance. Doyen led from the front, his weapon firing short. Precise bursts that dropped enemy soldiers before they could respond. "Bridge is ahead," one Marine reported. "Breaching charges," Doyen ordered. The charges blew the bridge doors inward. Marines rushed through the smoke, weapons ready. They found Fleet Admiral Croth standing at his command station, surrounded by his dead or wounded crew. The Admiral reached for his weapon, but Doyen was faster, putting 3 rounds into the console next to him. "Don't," Doyen said simply. Croth looked around at the humans surrounding him, their weapons trained on his head. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had conquered countless worlds. But he had never seen soldiers move like these humans. They fought with a speed and violence that seemed almost impossible. "You are my prisoner," Doyen said. "Order your fleet to stand down." "Never," Croth hissed. Doyen shrugged. "Then watch them die." Through the viewport, Croth could see the battle still raging. But it wasn't a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. Human ships darted through his fleet like predators among prey, destroying ships with terrifying efficiency. Over half his fleet was already gone. The rest were trying to retreat, but the humans were hunting them down one by one. "Stop," Croth said quietly. "I order my fleet to surrender." "Smart choice," Doyen replied. He activated his communicator. "Captain Choi, the Admiral is ours. He's ordering his fleet to stand down." On the Defiance Bridge, Minho watched as Council ships stopped fighting and powered down their weapons. "All human vessels, cease fire. Let them surrender." Yuna checked her displays. "Battle assessment, sir. Enemy losses. 180 ships destroyed or disabled. 20 ships escaped into faster than light. Our losses. 0 ships destroyed, 3 damaged, minimal casualties." Minho nodded slowly. "Send a message to Earth. First blood is ours. The Council now knows what we can do." Throughout human space, the news spread rapidly. The Council fleet had been destroyed. Fleet Admiral Croth was a prisoner. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council had lost a battle. In the crystalline chamber orbiting Axis Prime, Councillor Vren received the report with disbelief. It was impossible. 200 ships against 40 should have been an easy victory. But somehow, impossibly, the humans had won. The galaxy was watching now. Every species, from the most powerful to the smallest, heard what happened at the border colonies. The Council, once thought invincible, had been defeated. And humanity, the young species that everyone dismissed, had proven they were something new and dangerous. The war had truly begun.